Hi there. What is Moscow like? Or what is Saint Petersburg like? There are lots of videos on YouTube with walks around those cities because they are capitals. But what about little Russian towns? We are in Bor today. Bor is a little Russian town with 76,000 of people. It is 400 kilometers away from Moscow. Let's take a walk. We are on the central street of the town now, Lenin Street. Lenin was a Russian revolutionary and a political theorist. He was a founder of the Soviet Union. And you may find Lenin Street in almost all the cities and towns in Russia. Not that we like Lenin very much, he's just the part of our history. The town is small, and that means that everything is close at hand. Look, to the right there is a registry office where people can marry or divorce or register their newborn children. There is the central office of the biggest bank of Russia, Sberbank. Bor is my husband's native town, so he knows about it almost everything. And I have been living here for 15 years, so it's almost my native town as well. I know it very well. Bor is only 10 kilometers away from the bigger city, Nizhny Novgorod, and Bor is going to be a part of it very soon, maybe in 5 years or something like this. You may get to Nizhny Novgorod by car, for example. It will take you 20 minutes or even less. You may go by train or by bus and even by a cable car. You will get to the central part of Nizhny Novgorod if you go by cable car. We will go there and we will have a look at it later. Sunny days are very rare in central Russia in autumn, and it's a crime not to go out, especially if you have children. So we are walking with our children today too. They're trying to behave, they're trying to be quiet. We are heading to the oldest fountain in Bor, Frog. Now it's not working, it works only during the summertime. This fountain had been the only one in town for a very long time. Look at it, really a frog. But another fountain was built a few years ago. It is modern and beautiful with lights and music, but local people like this frog more, and I do. It's nice. People like gather around when it's hot, meet, eat ice cream. Lenin Street connects two squares of the town. Market Square, it is behind us, we will go there later, and the Square of Victory. It is going to be in front of us very soon. And there is the Eternal Flame there, a monument that is usual for every town or city. All the eternal flames in Russia are dedicated to our soldiers who defended our motherland during the World War II. But Russians don't call this war the World War II. It's not only the second for us. We know it as the Great Patriotic War. All the eternal flames in Russia are dedicated to soldiers who defended our motherland during the World War II. But we don't call this war only the World War II. It's not the second for us. It was the Great Patriotic War. There is the end of Lenin Street, and we could say that Lenin Street has its name because of the monument to Lenin that is ahead of us, but it's not that simple. There was a Holy Cross church here on that place, and on the place where the monument is, there was an altar of the church. It was destroyed in 1930s, and now there is a palace of culture, how we call it, or a community center. This church was unique in some ways. People didn't baptize there, they didn't get married in that church. They just read the burial services. So this church was built specially for burial services, funerals, and there was a huge cemetery around. Some parts of the church remained after the explosion, and communists made a dance club out of them. And when in 1930s young people used to go there for a dance for entertainment, old people kept telling them that they were dancing on people's bones. Why? Because the cemetery is still there. There are no tombstones, but people's bones are still there in the ground. But now there is no dance club. In 1970s, a palace of culture was built. There are lots of studios for little children, and there is a concert hall for theater and musical performances. And instead of cemeteries, there is a big memorial to the soldiers who defended our motherland during the Great Patriotic War. So I can say that justice has been served. There is a demonstration here on Victory Day on the 9th of May. Anyone can participate. The procession starts on the Market Square, then along Lenin Street, and it finishes here. People gather to look at outdoor concerts, to congratulate each other, to meet their friends, to listen to politics who announce their congratulations from the stage. Everything happens here, everything important, and there are lots of people at any time of the year. And for example, a demonstration against the raising of the retirement age was held here a few years ago. I participated. The retirement age was raised anyway. Thanks to our politicians, they believe in me that I can work longer and harder and better, that I'm a superman. Oh, I forgot to say that all the demonstrations are out of law now in Russia due to coronavirus. But I'm an optimist, and I know that everything that has its beginning has its end, like the long, great patriotic war that we remember, and we put flowers here to this monument every year. We do it because we believe that if we forget this war, the war will come again. But it won't. We remember. And behind the Palace of Culture, there is an open-air museum of military equipment. It appeared here only a few years ago, but children of all ages like it because there are lots of military cars, decommissioned ones. They are not from 1940s, of course, they're modern, but very interesting for boys and girls of all ages. And you as a parent can just walk around and admire your kids playing. But if the kids are very little, you should follow them and climb too. Here in this park there is a monument to Negin Yevgeny Arkadьевich. Negin Yevgeny Arkadьевich was born in Bor, and we are proud of it. He is an academician of Russian Academy of Sciences. He worked in a federal nuclear center for many years. What did he do? He designed nuclear charges. That's why you can see a nuclear warhead here. It's a model, of course. Why are we proud of it? You may say that nuclear weapon is a means of murder, but it's not a means of murder for Russian people. It's a means of defense, of protection, because we don't want another war to ever come to our land. Children can easily climb on a tank, but try to climb this submarine tower. You won't do it probably without help of your parents or friends. When our boys were 2-3 years old, we were very eager to climb tanks also, and it wasn't safe for them to do it alone. So I never went here on high heels, only trainers. Now they're quite big and can do it without our help. The community center should have been built according to a standard project for the Soviet Union of that time. It was founded by the motor ship factory, and its director decided to add extensions on the left and right side of the building to make it more spacious. He found money, he did so, but he didn't consult with people above. Nobody said a thank you to him. He got reprimanded instead. Men can do great things not only on the war. We remember the name of this person, Ivan Stepanovich Tveryakov. There used to be big letters above the columns at Soviet Union time. Glory to Lenin. We didn't manage to find a photo with them, I'm afraid. There is no glory now. Sometimes we can see playbills of a play if a theater comes on tour or there is a concert for charity. And these are gates of the Holy Cross Church. It is difficult to say whether these are front gates to the church or back gates to the cemetery. And this simple monument is devoted to soldiers and, in general, men who had to be emergency workers, people from Bor who worked at the nuclear power plant. I mean, nuclear power plant in the city of Chernobyl, Ukraine, after the accident there. Chernobyl is very far from us, but many people were sent there to help. It was in 1986. Some of these heroes are still alive. Now we are walking along the place where the Holy Cross Church was and the altar, and there is a monument to Lenin. It's not the only monument devoted to him in our little town. There is another one. Lenin is sitting there. It is situated in the Central Park. But after the restoration, that monument does not really look like Lenin. Anyway, we have two monuments. And guess what? Our town has got its own TV channel, the left bank, because Bor is situated on the left bank of the Volga River. The office of the channel is here in this building, along with the gym, different studios for kids, and a big swimming pool. What's really valuable about this center? Kids can learn to swim and do many other things free of charge because this center belongs to the town. And also, pensioners can go to the swimming pool free as well if they get a free subscription. And we are heading to the most well-known attraction of Bor, cable car. It was built 10 years ago, and it is the first cable car in Russia that works as means of transport for people, usual people, not ordinary people, not tourists. It costs 100 rubles, that's less than $2, and it's very comfortable for students who lives in Bor, because if you get there in Nizhny Novgorod, you can easily get to most universities of Nizhny Novgorod. What's very comfortable and good, you can get there on foot. There is no need to take a bus. The trip lasts 15 minutes if the weather is good. But if there is strong wind or icy rain in winter or whatever, it can last up to 40 minutes. And if you're afraid of height, please remember about that. And it's dreadfully cold inside during the winter, so it's better to have a trip in summer. Once my mother and I took such a long trip in winter. We visited my godmother in the hospital, and suddenly all the cable car stopped. It stopped moving, and our cable car began moving up and down slowly, but it was dreadfully scary. I remember that I stopped breathing. We decided to take a bus when we got back. It was longer but safer. We are on Lunacharskaya Street. Lunacharsky was another revolutionary, and the street goes in parallel with Lenin Street. And there is a monument of another revolutionary, Iosif Vissarionovich Stalin. You may see it here. Yes, he ruled the country during the Great Patriotic War, and many years before that, and many years after that. For me, he is a dictator. For many other people, he is an extraordinary leader. What's interesting, there aren't any official monuments of Stalin anymore in our country, as they all were destroyed in 1960s. This one was funded by Alexei Zorov, a member of the Communist Party, and it is located on a private land. The city administration wrote a statement to the police about this. It was in 2020 because Zorov hasn't received an approval. But he showed the paper that the monument was installed by a landscape design firm as a garden sculpture, and the administrative case was not initiated. Now it is another key attraction of our town. But I was eager to show you this street for another reason. It is like a calling card of Bor. You see, Nizhny Novgorod is first of all blocks of flats, and Bor is different. People are going here to get their piece of land to live on, to build a private house, and here you may see some houses that are 70 years old or even more older. That's interesting, and I must say it's priceless. And somebody is ready to work even at weekends, probably a mechanic. However, it is good to see that new houses replace old ones. They are more comfortable, the town is changing. That means that people have money, that's life. But the contrast is awesome. The only disadvantage of the town is canalization. Each private house has its own pit, and there is a special service. You call for a car to make the pit empty again. Maybe once a month or even more often. It is uncomfortable. Even if you are rich enough, you won't take a bath every day. But of course, there is not such a problem in blocks of flats. Speaking about income, salaries is always interesting, and I'll better tell you an anecdote to illustrate. There is a meeting of Putin and Macron. Macron is complaining, my people in France need 2,000 euro to live. They get 3,000. Where do they spend 1,000? I have no idea. Putin answers, my people in Russia need 30,000 rubles for a living. They earn 20,000. Where do they get 10,000? I have no idea. That means that the salaries are not very high, but we manage to survive, as you see. Life in Bor is going at a slower pace comparing with Nizhny Novgorod, and it's comfortable for families with children because, as I have already said, there are lots of kids clubs with extra activities. Some of them are really free. There are many state schools and kindergartens. There were two swimming pools, but now there are even three. One of them was built only 13 years ago. There are two musical schools, two art schools, and three stadiums. No, even four. A sports center with a cozy stadium was built in 2018. It was built for World Football Championship, and a team from Uruguay stayed there. They made barbecue, went to sauna. In general, they had a good time, as we saw in the Instagram stories. But they were not very lucky with the weather. It was rather chill in that June. And as I said, there are two internal flames. So why is everything doubled, if not trebled? There is another district in Bor where the glass factory is, and this glass factory used to be very important during the Soviet Union times, and they built their own infrastructure. They built their own eternal flame and community center and sports center and art and musical school. That's it. Rowan trees look beautiful. It's October, there are no leaves, but rowan berries are waiting for bullfinches and waxwings. They will come in January. Yes, and this house is waiting for another owner. Let me tell you something about industry in Bor. There is Bor Glass Factory. Another factory produces glassware. The silicate plant makes bricks. It's a rather big factory. There is a tube rolling factory, a felt factory, and if you want to buy a souvenir, then felt slippers might be a good choice. They can be with embroidery and they are very warm. There is also an ice cream factory, Calibri. Calibri means in English a hummingbird. We are proud of this factory because this ice cream is very tasty. Buy more expensive items made of natural cream. You will fall in love, I promise. There is also a poultry farm, Linda, and salaries. Salaries depend on the position you get. In this part of Lunacharskova Street, there are some two-story buildings. They belonged to merchants before the revolution, before the 1917, and after the revolution, they were given away to the new Soviet Union state. And that happened not always on their own free will, I'm afraid. There are municipal services in these old buildings nowadays. Some of them could have been restored, though. This wooden one is a local history museum. Children go there on excursions, and others are municipal services nowadays. Some of them could have been restored better, though. I like this house very much. It's authentic and mysterious. I love old buildings. We live in a new one, but old buildings, like old people, seem to be full of unknown. These charming old houses remind us about the past of the town. Peasants and merchants used to live here, and the name of our town, Bor, means pine forest. There are lots of buildings made of wood. And what's interesting, most of old ones have wooden carving, window frames. The street we are walking is Lunacharskova Street, but it got its name after the revolution. And before the revolution, before 1917, it had the name of the church we see in front. Church in honor of icon of the sign Mother of God. So the name of the street was Znamenskaya Street. When most of these old houses go into the past, it will be a loss for the town, for its face. But would you like to live in such a house? I would not. I think people must live in comfort nowadays. And what do you think? Share your ideas in the comments. But somehow I like old brick houses made of red brick, as you see on the left. I think they must be. And by the way, Lenin Street had another name before the revolution. It was Holy Church Street. These houses are really old because we are in the center of the city. And red brick means that the house was built before the revolution. This one, I think these were storage facilities. So merchants kept corn there or maybe some other wares, and now it's a cafe. I have to say a few words about roads, their quality. Well, if they're main roads, they're okay, but if they're secondary roads, they are not very good. They are bad, I must say. This is a secondary road, for example. And this is a mutual problem that unites everybody in our town, rich people and poor people, not only in our town, in all towns in Russia. But I have to admit that there are some advantages as well. If the road is bad, cars can't go very fast, and it's probably better for pedestrians, especially children. They are maybe safer. What do you think? Let's go back to the church. It was closed in 1930s, and the bells were taken away. And there was a bakery plant for many, many years. Even I remember there was a plant 15 years ago when I first came in this town. And that was awful. The church looked poor and abandoned. But 10 years ago it was restored, and it looks very nice now. There is a new tradition all around Russia. It is about how to celebrate New Year's Eve. Most people celebrate it by eating lots of food at night and watching fireworks, meeting friends. This story. But if you are tired of doing it every year, every New Year Eve, you may go to Church of Saint Mother of God for a night service. This tradition is 10 years old. There is only one church in Bor that has this night service. We were there a few times. It is wonderful. A magical contrast when at 12 p.m. straight there is noise from fireworks outside, but people inside are praying, and there is no electrical light, just candles. I'm not talking about that you should not have fun on New Year's Eve. Of course, you can if you want, but there is always choice. That's brilliant. There is not only one church, there are two churches here. Saint Sergei of Radonezh Church, you see. Why are there two churches here? Why did people build two churches? That was extremely expensive. Probably they had not enough room for all the people during the Sunday service. It's not that simple. Let me explain. There was the end of Bor here in 19th century, maybe earlier, and another village started just a few meters further. It had the name Kononova, and the villagers of this village, they decided to build their own church in honor of Sergei of Radonezh. And that's why there are two churches now. It's a compound, and it's very beautiful and well organized, and it has the name Sergeyevskaya Sloboda, Sergeyevskaya settlement, something like this. It's really difficult to translate. And this building, it was abandoned for many, many years, I remember it, but now it looks, I don't know, like a little palace. There is a kindergarten behind the Sergeyevskaya church. It was restored a few years ago as well. And if you see lots of children, it always gives you the atmosphere of joy, happiness. And I think it's very, very good that they are all here. Two churches, a kindergarten, and a big playground. There are two churches inside of this building. One of them is a baptismal church, so children and people get baptized there. And the murals are very unusual in this church because they are in the style of early Christianity. They are almost white and there are lots of birds and flowers, so it's like heaven. It is one of the first really good and well-equipped playground in Bor, and when it was opened, it was extremely popular. It is still popular because the place is really nice. There is the Volga nearby, and there is light breeze always. Especially, it's very pleasant to be here in summer when it's really hot. But now in autumn it's also very nice. The monument to Saint Sergius of Radonezh was built in 2014, and his role in Russian history was enormous. He was doing his best to unite little Russian states into one big state, though it really happened only after his death. Also, Saint Sergius did his best to reduce enmity between the princes of the Russian lands. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. Saint Sergius was on Nizhny Novgorod land in 1365. He came here to eliminate enmity in the struggle for the throne of Nizhny Novgorod Principality between two brothers. But his persuasions did not help, and the Prince of Moscow was forced to send an army to Nizhny Novgorod to support one of the princes, Prince Dmitry Konstantinovich. And this house is being built for many years, and now something has started again here. It is a children's center. It will be children's center in honor of Sergei of Radonezh. But except for Sunday school, there will be also the whole of Russian hand-to-hand combat. So it's very interesting. What is it going to be? When is the building is finished? That monument is to Saint George, and the whole square is devoted to him. This whole compound is being built still, yes, and there are lots of restorations or changing. Something is being reconstructed all the time, and it's no wonder. Even I remember times when this church was closed and there were no church services. The church services were on the right in the ex kindergarten. That was not very comfortable because there was very little space. But it was, and now there are huge changes. Let's get inside. As I said, there are two churches inside. The baptismal church in honor of Nicholas the Wonder Worker, here it is, and its walls are almost white. There are plants and trees and birds on them. That is unusual for our Russian churches. And the main church is devoted to the icon of the Sign Mother of God. The walls here are blue. It is the style of 11th, 12th centuries, Byzantium, Komnenian period. We have two lines of holy people of the Nizhny Novgorod region on the ceiling. There are the nuns of the Diveevsky Monastery and Saint Alexei Bർത്surmansky and many others. There are the main events of the earthly life of Jesus Christ on the murals, and also the moments of his preaching, and also there are almost all holy people of Nizhny Novgorod land on the murals. Saint Seraphim of Sarov, Saint Sergius of Radonish, Saint Luca of the Crimea, and Saint Panteleimon the Healer. They are on the icons on the right. And what's unusual, the picture of the Last Judgment. It is on the entrance wall, and it's quite rare. I have never seen such pictures in churches. As you have probably noticed, there was almost nowhere to sit in our church, in all our churches, because servants of the emperor have actually no right to sit at the presence of the emperor. And we stand when we are at a church service. Of course, there are a few chairs for people who are really sick, but it's not in the tradition. I like the lifestyle in this town. People are not in a hurry, especially people who live in private houses. They have got skis to go skiing in the meadows or in the forest during the winter. They have got little but cozy bathhouses, and they sweat in their bathhouses on Saturdays. They can make a barbecue or a smoked fish in their yards. They can have little but kitchen gardens and greenhouses to grow their own tomatoes. I used to live in a big city with lots of factories in a block of flats, and I used to dream about life in a private house. Now I have it. My dream has come true. My younger son likes to build from his Lego bricks, and he once told me, Mom, I want to live in a skyscraper. Will you visit me someday? I said, Of course I will. But is it better to live in a skyscraper on the top floor or maybe close to nature? But it's necessary to admit that the soil in this area is not very fertile, and if you want to get a really valuable crop, you must put lots of effort. Probably that's why the rural economy was not very developed here in this region. But now it is developing, but it's not really good. I will tell you about new build industrial greenhouses for growing cucumbers, probably, or greens. They shine all the time, even at night, and I'll tell you about it later. We are almost at a market square where you see a hotel. This is a hotel. To the right, it is a shop. They are old buildings uh, built in 19th century, and there are also some restaurants and shops, of course. And we are on a parking zone, but it is exactly the place where the march of the Immortal Regiment starts every year in May when we celebrate the 9th of May, the Victory Day. This used to be a cinema in the Soviet Union times. Then in 19th of the 20th century, it used to be a nightclub. But now it's empty, waiting for a venture to undertake. And this is a new built restaurant and a hotel. Not a new build, recently restored. And now about the Immortal Regiment. We gather here to start it every year, 9th of May. And what is an Immortal Regiment? You see, there are almost no war veterans left, because we bested the Nazi more than 75 years ago. But we don't want any war to start again on our land. That's why we show that we remember about it. So we take the photos of our relatives who defended our future in that great patriotic war. Somebody died there, somebody came back. They all are not alive anymore, but we remember, we don't forget, and we carry their photos up high when we march along the street on the Victory Day. Our warriors are immortal. Here we are at Market Square. There is not much interesting, because almost everything is occupied by global retail chains. Even the market building has lost some of the space because of another supermarket. But not everything is over here. For example, on the right, we have a cafe Calibri. Calibri means hummingbird. I have already mentioned that. It's a cafe of our ice cream factory. There is the shop as well, and in this shop there is a wide selection of the ice cream. Yeah, I can recommend Leningradskaya Eskimo. It is small, covered with chocolate, rather expensive but delicious. You can also try cakes and bread. I remember this place 15 years ago. It was the first place in Bor that I saw, and I remember lots of very old houses, wooden houses, but now we can hardly see any. Maybe one is left, and lots of different modern buildings have been built. That's good. There is Burger King in our town, but there isn't any McDonald's. That's positive, but I'm not sure that it is going to last long, because they say that McDonald's has made a research of our area and they decided that there should be two separate buildings for McDonald's here, two separate cafes, if it's possible to say so. I hope they will change their mind because I don't want our children to be fat and unhealthy. It is a market building. It is 12, probably more than 12 years old, so it's pretty new. I remember there used to be an old building for the market. It had one floor and it was very unsettled and looked more like a shed. And behind the market building there was a waste ground, but now it's not a waste ground but a park. And instead of the swamp, there was a swamp. I could not call it a lake. Now it's a little lake here, and there is lots of place for people to walk, for children to play. Some people can discuss money issue here. How much money had been spent to restore this lake? There wasn't a lake. I didn't know that there was a lake just 10 years ago, but it just was abandoned. But the amount of money that had been spent, it's something incredible, really. But I can see and positive too, because it wasn't a park for a very long time. There was lots of garbage, strange, dark, drunk companies gathered here. Now it's a nice place to spend some time outdoors. My children and I, we don't come here very often because we live not very close to the city center, but we have some pleasant places to stay out too in the area where we live. Despite these positive changes, and despite the fact that many block of flats are being built nowadays, modern buildings to live, the population of the town is decreasing. Not much, but decreasing year after year. Detached houses and blocks of flats are quite near. That is our town, Bor. That is something unique about it. I don't really know what else can I add about my town. I kinda have run out of ideas, but if you have questions, please leave them in the comments. Oh, and that is quite natural. A funeral parlor and a shop of strong drinks. They are like friends, go together. We are heading to one of the attractions. It is a very authentic place. It is a public bathhouse. It is municipal, so it belongs to the city, and it stands here from the Soviet Union times, and everything inside is exactly the same when how it was in the Soviet Union times. Of course, refurbished, but not changed. Look, it is being heated. We can see the smoke. Or however to say it in English, I don't really know. It is a place where you can not only, I don't know, to steam, yes, to heat yourself, and but also and to wash, of course, but also where you can find good company to talk. It is very cheap, somewhere about $2 and a half, and the atmosphere is very plain, even aesthetic, but it's very nice place. This bathhouse has got a half for men and a half for women. Not only poor people go here to relax and to wash, but also rather wealthy. We can observe expensive cars nearby, parked here, especially on Saturdays. Saturday is a bath day for Russians, it's a tradition. And this tower is like a leaning tower of Pisa because it's not really straight, it stands, it's leaning really, but it stands and doesn't crash. I don't know exactly why this tower was built, but I know for sure that the architect of this tower went to prison because it is not straight, it's leaning. In the Soviet Union times, there was a factory that produced furniture on the right, and this factory it sponsored a monument devoted to the World War II. Of course, it's on the right. This soldier he used to have a sword in his hand, but then somehow the sword was damaged, and there were some attempts to rebuild, to restore this monument, but it was difficult, and the sword is not in his hand now, and the monument looks very poor. What do you think about this place? I mean, our town, Bor. Is it friendly or is it unwelcoming? It is autumn now and the weather is quite nice, but also we have got very long winters when there is almost no sun but plenty of snow and frost. Central Park. Now it's quiet and there are almost no people, but in summer there are lots of kids. And that is another Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. But after restoration, he doesn't look like real Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, and he is sitting here. But usually he stands and points where to go. I don't know where he points, but yes, it's his usual pose. When our first son was born, he was about 5 months old. It was autumn also, and we went here with a pram to walk. Especially here. This park is quite far from us, but we did so because there was a picture in our mind that ideal parents must walk their pram with a kid in the park. And we did so, and we have even some photos of this. But most of the time, of course, my son was sleeping in his pram outside the house in our garden, and there was no use of going here to walk him. He got his fresh air even near the house. We live in a detached house, and the fence is very high, and nobody can enter without the permission in our garden. So he was perfectly safe there. And our cat used to stand guard near the pram or even on the pram, not inside, of course, but on the pram. And she was taking care of our son and our second son as well. The amusement park works only in summer, in late spring and early autumn. Now everything's closed and quiet. This was used to be an open air disco, and my husband's parents used to go there for a dance. Now it's nothing, there is nothing here, just the memories. The stadium is near the park and people come to jog here. We used to go here too, but now we just go to a gym. We are not on Mars, we are still on the Earth and we are still in Bor. Like realists like to say, it's impossible for everything to be perfect. Something must be bad. So, what's bad in Bor? The greenhouse complex has been recently built. Not on the outskirts, it's not the outskirts anymore. There are lots of cottages here, and these cottages and the land has been given to families with lots of children, to doctors and teachers and kindergarten teachers. And now in this area, greenhouse complex has been built, and it shines days and nights. And people who live really close, they blame this greenhouse complex that the quality of the air is bad now, and there is lots of noise. But nothing is has been changed. They say that the norms of phenol in the air have been exceeded. My husband and I don't use phenol to grow cucumbers and tomatoes in our greenhouses. We don't eat fresh vegetables in winter, we eat pickled ones, but at least they are not dangerous. Now we're heading home. We live not really far from this complex, and the light it bothers us, but not a lot. Sometimes when it shines really bright, you can even go out in the garden at night and read a book. It's normal. Is it normal? Of course it's not. It's abnormal. But people who live really close, I don't know. I pity them. It is like the fly in the ointment in the very end. Okay, leave likes, dislikes, goodbye.